I just noticed something really strange when I was thinking about what I learned in US history. And I was thinking about and going back to the 70s about sort of the revolution and when African Americans finally got their rights there. I was thinking about the 80s and MTV, and then I kind of went all the way up to Bill Clinton, and I realized Bill Clinton and Donald Trump they are almost identical in a difference of amounts of comparison. Bill Clinton was in the Epstein files, but we also know that he had an well, not we, but a lot of people know that he was in an intimate relationship with someone less than half of his age, which is disgusting. But Donald Trump also had a lot of connections to, pedophiles and probably, at least some in the Epstein files, but he was probably also connected to it. So if you think about it this way, Bill Clinton was the only president from like 1970s to today where he wasn't very focused and he sort of just didn't care, and he was always much more focused, and he never really cared about his presidential campaign, which means that he probably was underqualified to run, a lot of the country, that being the president allows you to that just allows you to fix and improve and pass laws. I mean, he's one of like the only presidents that didn't pass any laws during his entire president term, which is really weird. And the other thing is, they both have heavy spray tans. Obviously, Bill Clinton does have a semi natural tan, but he also has a spray tan. Obviously, nowhere near as bad as Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is it's extreme. But that detail seems unnecessary, yet it also adds to the fact of how similar they are. He was also sending a lot of money, I mean, tens of millions of dollars to Israel, and he was dealing with, you know, Jewish people, however his connection was. So then you realize Donald Trump is sending way more money to Israel, and he's been dealing with China last year. I think it was last year where he was dealing with sort of just business relationship issues with China and political relations with China. Probably some underlying problems. Um, so because of that, you can also consider that now Donald Trump is somehow making up his own connection to, or his own involvement in dealing with the concentrated Jewish population in the country that they're in, the part of the country that they're in, without trying to be, I'm not trying to be offensive, but, because it's a very small population, a lot like Native Americans, which is very unfortunate as well. And if I was alive around the time, I would definitely make a difference and not help save a lot more Native Americans. I believe in being that way for any race, you know, because that's how you destroy racism, in part. So, you can compare both. You can compare both sides, and it circles back to the fact that Bill Clinton and Donald Trump are practically just the same as president. They are the most similar as presidents, and even in their presidential claims campaigns. So I think there is more to dive into and research and look at past documentations and history about Bill Clinton and before Bill Clinton. And I bet if you look at Donald Trump and if you look at a lot of his career being a self made billionaire, making his book, The Art of the Deal, in the 90s, Bill Clinton had his presidential campaign in, I think it was 1996, 1997. No, 1996. So there would be a connection to that as a guess. So then you can look at, well, what about before that? Well, what did Bill Clinton do in the 80s? I mean, there's not much known. But there's so much about Donald Trump in the 80s and the 70s, and, him being famous back then. There could be ties, or there could be influence or inspiration with one another, or from the other Donald Trump or Bill Clinton. So there's definitely a lot that's missing. And there's a chance that Jeffrey Epstein could be, it could date back. I mean, you could even look into other people that have been in the Epstein files and other people that have been tied to, well, that have just decided to involve themselves with Israel and, their ongoing war that has been lasting so long. Some of it is probably just fake and it's more just made up by the president because, like, are so much of the taxpayer dollars going to Israel? It's just ridiculous. I mean, that's such an exaggeration. Like, you don't need to be giving. I mean, Donald Trump is giving billions of dollars. Like, billions of dollars. It hasn't just been one, he's just been sending more and more and more. And it just gets ridiculous when you consider how much is going there when you could send more army personnel instead of money. I mean, it hasn't gotten any better, and it hasn't made any solutions. It hasn't changed. So, I just wanted to share because I think there's a lot to uncover about Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, maybe Jeffrey Epstein. There's a chance that Jeffrey Epstein, he could have a unique or a pretty heavy criminal record. I mean, there's a chance, and he could have possible previous sex offenders or, sex offender charges. Maybe. I mean, it's possible, right? Because of the island. But there could also be connections of ways that Bill Clinton could be tied to it. Maybe Donald Trump, because I think Donald Trump is older than Bill Clinton, or he's like the same age. So, you can tie those three people. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein's not comparable. But you could also tie, of course, not Barack Obama. He was an amazing president. Truly renowned and remarkable. I was amazed. He was very mature. But you can compare other presidents before Bill Clinton. And, you've also Hillary Clinton wasn't exactly like, I mean, she kind of reflected, she was kind of like Bill Clinton too, not very focused, kind of just meh. She never really did much in what she did, so, that sort of ties in a way.